Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Monkeys with Fire. How are you today? Hope you're well. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I hope you're looking forward to our show tonight, which, of course, is a table talk interview. We are talking with the creative director of Into the Unknown, Marcin Welnicki. And so he's going to be telling us all about their latest Kickstarter project that has just been shipping to backers, which was Aeon Trespass Nymphs. And hopefully, as you know, when I do these interviews, we will try and wrangle out some information on what's happening next. What can we expect from the studio? So, if you've got questions, then of course, please do fire them away into the chat, and we will feed them over to Marcin as we go through the interview.
Aeon Trespass Nymphs is an exquisite line of high-quality 32mm resin miniatures which offer a glimpse into a new world of science fantasy. Each nymph has a unique role and backstory, and is illustrated and sculpted with care by our most talented artists to reflect their delicate beauty and fearsome strength. The figures are hand-packed into designer craft boxes that include a scenic base, an art print, and a hand-numbered first-run collector certificate of authenticity. Here at Into the Unknown Studio, we value craftsmanship above all else. We want to bring you only the best and most creative designs. That's why all of our miniatures go through a rigorous process of production, from storytelling, through research, concept art, 3D modeling, to prototyping, master creation, and manufacturing. Aeon Trespass Nymphs is a perfect set for any collector, painter, game master, or wargamer. With your support, we can take this project to the next level. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the comments section.
So there we go, guys. This is Aeon Trespass Nymphs. All right then, well, please, everybody, join me in welcoming the creative director of Into the Unknown Studio, Marcin Welnicki. Marcin, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Again, thank you for having me.
And of course, so Into the Unknown has just recently shipped to backers a successful first Kickstarter project for you, which was launching Aeon Trespass Nymphs.
Yes. We launched in November, and we just, like 2 weeks ago, we finished shipping, and that was that was an adventure all in itself, the shipping part. But but we did it. This was our first project, like as a company, and this was also our first Kickstarter, and I think we did a really good job with it. And hopefully people like, for now, everyone is really happy with their minis, and I think that most, like 95% of the packages have already been delivered. So yeah, so we can count that one as a great success for us.
Excellent. Well, I mean, I know that I've got my minis, and I'm delighted by them. But we'll take a look at those later on.
Sure.
So, obviously the studio being relatively new, but the individuals within the studio have quite an extensive background in board games and video games and the sort of the creative fantasy sort of industry. So, do you want to sort of share a little bit about obviously about yourself, what your background is, and then some of the other people in the studio?
Yeah. So there's four of us. I'm the guy that put the band together, and also the creative director at Into the Unknown. And again, as a company, we're on the market for about a year now, and the NIMS were our first project. But individually, we've all been with the industry for 4 years. Like I've been, I won't exaggerate that I've been in the industry, in the board game industry, in the RPG industry, in the video games industry, for about let me think, like 17 years, 18 years, like more than half of my life has been working in those creative industries. I've started by writing supplemental material for RPGs, for things like Fading Suns RPG. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this setting. I've written some text for the third edition setting by like the White Wolf, the publishers of Vampire the Masquerade, had an imprint called Sword and Sorcery, something like that, and they had a RPG setting called the Scarred Lands, and I've written some things for that. Then I've been working on board games. I've published my board games have been published in Poland and international editions, like in the beginning, in the first half of 2010s, and they've been designed like 5-10 years earlier. Like I've started really early. And I've also been writing novels. I'm a novelist here in Poland. I have two novels published so far, like alternative history sci-fi novels and a lot of short stories. And recently, for the last 5 years, I've been working in the video games industry as a screenwriter and gameplay story director at Bluebird Team. And that's where I actually met Mateusz and Konrad, who are my partners in Into the Unknown. Both of them have also been with the industry for more than 10 years. Mateusz has been creating awesome stuff, awesome art for more than a decade. He's a traditionally trained artist. He finished like this art, like it's really highly valued art school here in Poland. And he's been winning awards for his art ever since. And he's also the art director for Bluebird. And on the other side, we've got Konrad, who's a programmer at heart, and well, he's a trained programmer, but he's also been doing a lot of producer stuff over the years. He's been with the BT team for almost the entirety of its run. And together we've created video games like Layers of Fear and Observer and a few others that I can't talk about right now because they're still under NDA, but you will soon find out. So probably Layers of Fear is the horror video game you might know us from. Maybe not. You never knew it was us. Now you know. And yeah, so I've been working there for about 5 years, and during that time, we started talking about our hobbies, about the things that we share, and miniatures and miniature wargaming and role-playing games came up, and that's how we started Into the Unknown.
Okay, wow. So as you say, you've got quite a background in the sort of creative arts. You've been doing this for such a long time.
Yeah. Also, there's a funny thing because I've got like 3 years of low output. Like there was this period of time when I didn't create as much, and that was because I was studying, because I'm like my trained profession is law. I'm a lawyer. I was a lawyer. And
that's why I had an NDA to sign.
Yes, that's why. That's why. This is those things that they train you to never leave you for the rest of your life. So yeah. So I was training to be a lawyer, and I decided like that about 10 years ago. I was 24, 25. I decided that this is not what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to do with my life, and so here I am.
Okay, so from the sort of introduction trailer, and I think everybody was automatically commenting on it. So Aeon Trespass Nymphs is a beautiful series of pin-up style miniatures inspired by Greek mythology and a science fantasy genre.
Yeah.
But you've not created them in a void. You have created a world for them to be part of, and you've built stories behind them. So you spent a great amount of time developing the material around these sort of initial characters. And I believe that this is sort of building up towards greater projects from the studio in the months and years to come, yeah?
Yeah, we definitely did ramp up our production design after the Nymphs. Like the campaign really helped us for, on one hand, reaching an audience, and then the support of the backers allowed us to continue to develop this world. And yeah, it's been more than, I think it's almost 3 years in development. And yeah, I started with creating the story, the setting of the world, and then slowly working towards what we have in mind. Like the Nymphs are one part of the world, but just a like a small part of it, and then we've got others. And there are some that there are some parts of the lore and of the world that I don't think we will ever show. Like those are just materials for us as creators and for our artists to draw upon. Because I think, like, I saw an interview with George R. R. Martin not that long ago when he was talking about Lord of the Rings, and he said something that really rang true, in that to create compelling stories, fantasy stories, science fiction stories, you need to feel that the world is alive, that there's more behind it than the surface. Like you might see just a glimpse of the world, just a snippet, but that you feel that there's a lot more around it. And so I started by creating the societies of this new world. We've been working on creating the creatures, the factions, etc., etc., etc. And we decided to start with the Nymphs, mostly because it was a strictly 32mm project. We didn't go overboard with it, like you may see from our next project. Like we definitely allowed ourselves more freedom in those designs. So I think you'll be very pleased with what you see. And yeah, do you have any? I can go on like this.
Well, okay.
Hours.
So, as opposed to, we won't talk about the Nymphs just yet, because we'll focus in on them specifically. But as far as, can you give an overview to the world? Give us an idea of the setting. I mean,
yeah, no problem. So the basic idea is this. We started with ancient Greece, like ancient Greece that's depicted in mythology, but we moved forward from it. The first major thing that happens in our setting is called the eschaton, and this is an event that killed mostly all of the Greek gods. Like we had this cataclysmic event that wiped Olympus off the map, and in place of the Greek gods, you've got those terrible, somewhat alien creatures that both draw upon the mythology, the Greek mythology, and the mythology of several other ancient civilizations of the time, But also like we wanted to insert something new into those stories, into those creatures and creations. We didn't want to just retell the myths. We wanted to because mythology is cyclical, and each mythology is created around the pantheon of gods. You always hear the same stories, like each character, like Hercules or Ulysses or Odysseus. They live like in a sort of a bubble, and their stories never end. Like you never know what happened after Theseus killed the Minotaur, for example. And we wanted to explore that. So our setting, our game and our world is set 10-15 years after the event that killed the gods, with the world slowly devolving into chaos, because the ancient civilizations aren't used to being without their patron deities. You've got those large, very large, like kaiju-sized creatures roaming around, and you've got the main, let's say, good force in the world. That's the Argonauts, based on their iron ship. And that's like the basic idea. You've got this like almost post-apocalyptic ancient Greece without the gods, but with their memory is still alive. Like you see some things like old priests that have been cast out of the cities because they no longer have patrons. They need to look for something else to do with their lives, or some of them turn to worshipping things darker and more sinister. Others find other ways to deal with that loss. And that's like the main theme of the world, let's say.
Okay. I suppose within sort of Greek mythology, very much the story was around sort of a demigod, wasn't it? That you always had the gods upon Olympus, as you say, but we're following, I suppose, the likes of Hercules and his sort of trials. I mean, are there sort of characters like that in this world still?
Oh yeah, well, we also like. I don't want to spoil
Sure.
much of the secrets of the world. There are characters still, some that you may know, and some that are logical continuations of things you knew, like things like Hercules in our world, because you of course know about the 12 labors of Hercules, right? Do you?
Yes.
Well, in our world, they aren't called labors, they are called sins. There's 12 sins of Hercules, and one of the themes of the story is learning about those 12 sins, about those 12 things that Hercules did that may have or may not have influenced the events of Eschaton. And each of those little stories, those revolves around one of the labors, like from classic mythology, but with a twist and with an additional story that really makes it, I think, more interesting to the viewer. Like, we're not trying to recreate the same stories, the same ideas all over again. We're trying to give people something new.
I think this is a very interesting idea, because as fantasy and sci-fi fans, we're very used to the sort of concept of alternate realities, that the history went up to a certain point and then has deviated off, and that's what it sounds like you're sort of creating here.
Yeah, it's somewhat like that, but as we're basing it on mythological Greece, not real Greece, it's like alternative mythology. Like, it's not alternative world, clearly, because we're playing more loosely with things like having fantastic creatures in the setting, and gods, albeit dead, are still an influence on the world. But yeah, you might say that we've taken that world and put it on a different path.
Yes.
But also, there's also this. I haven't talked about this part of the setting for now, but I think it's a good moment to do so. There's the science fantasy element of the setting. Like we're like, if you talk about influences, we really grew up on watching things like Stargate SG-1, or there was this French Japanese like light anime series, Mysterious Cities of Gold. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Yes, know that one.
Or Ulysses 31, a childhood favorite. And those are like the ideas that we wanted to convey. Like we wanted to take those myths about ancient advanced civilizations and put them in there. So there's Atlantis in here. There's other peoples, like if you when you dive into Greek mythology and you move past the obvious myths, and you start to deal with the more obscure ones, you find that there's a lot of fascinating stuff that hasn't been really used in most of fantasy media concerning Greece. Things like, did you know that in Greek mythology it's said that our age, the age of heroes, was the third or fourth even age of life on Earth, and that the first three of them were wiped out by the gods. Like there was the the golden people, the silver people, and the bronze peoples. And we try to blend this type of stuff, like the stuff that you can, if you really want to research this, you've seen, like you've seen our miniatures, you've read some of our stories. You want to check if what parts of our setting are based on mythology. You can go to Wikipedia or a dictionary or something like that, and you'll find that like there's a lot of stuff that we really took from mythology and then put a really great spin on it. Like we really established several advanced civilizations that were living in the world at one time or another, and are still to this day present in the lives of the peoples of Greece and our heroes.
That's really interesting. It sort of gives your current sort of society, even though we see it as an ancient civilization, there are ancient civilizations for them from these previous sort of generations, if we call it that, which is a bit similar, I suppose, in Tolkien, where his setting of The Lord of the Rings is of the third age, but he had two ages prior with loads of history to be able to take an influence on, as you say, creating the world, making it more believable for your characters.
Yeah, we've like I've been a DM for like also most of my life, and I've really I've always created those really elaborate storylines that spanned over years, and trying to recreate, like we never played the games as simple dungeon crawls. We really tried to put a lot of intrigue and a lot of culture stuff into it, and after several years we always look back and there was this rich tapestry of interrelations and intercrossing storylines, and this is something that I really wanted to convey with the setting of Aeon Trespass 2.
Okay, so we've got an idea of the setting of the world, so let's now look at the nymphs more specifically. And can you sort of give us an overview? Tell us who they are.
Yeah, so as you might have seen from the trailer, and well, so let me not get sidetracked. I'm really I've got so many thoughts all the time that I get easily distracted or go on tangents. So if I do, just stop me right there and say, like, focus on this question. So the nymphs are creatures that, in a way, took the place of the Olympian gods. Like, you know, the nymphs from mythology, and people, when our nymphs, the nymphs of Aeon Trespass, showed up, people automatically called them nymphs. They were similar to this concept of those spirits of the forest, spirits of the wild, of the seas, etc., etc. So people just latched onto the name nymphs. But the secret of our nymphs is really that they're not those nymphs. They are creatures that were laying dormant or really hiding throughout history, and they really emerged into the world when the Olympian gods died. There was this, like, let's say, power vacuum, and then nymphs stepped in. So they are really powerful beings, and each one has a team around her. And they've got these mysterious goals. Like they aren't evil, they aren't good. They've got this. Each one has a specific mode of being and of interacting with people. And I think that's the general gist of it. Like people to the nymphs are really toys or tools, and people can gain something by interacting with them or lose something by interacting with them. But they are still, like, there's other beings, new beings in the world besides the nymphs, and the nymphs are really, if in comparison, they are really on the humanity side. Like they, even if one or the other nymph screws a person, like gets someone killed or something like that, they are still considered more human than the other things that showed up.
All right, this is interesting. Okay, do they have their own sort of agenda, or are they working for somebody, or?
Well, this is, like, again, this is some of the things I can't share with you, because
Sure.
that would be sharing one of the major secrets of the world. But yeah, each of the nymphs has an agenda, and I don't know if you want to talk examples now or when we get to some of the nymphs.
We'll do it when we actually look at them
Okay,
individually.
Yeah. So each nymph's got a team, and she's got a goal, agenda, as you say, in mind. Like there's a, if you really read into the stories we've put out so far, you can even see some interrelations between the nymphs and the things they do.
And we will start to look at the nymphs in more detail. But I found it interesting when I was reading the Kickstarter project that you actively made a decision that you wanted this group of characters to be inclusive in terms of the sculpting of various body types, and go for more natural bodies as opposed to what would be considered maybe photoshopped magazine cover style imagery. Yes.
That was very important to us.
Do you want to expand upon that? Tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. That's like one of the reasons we did this project. Like we looked at the classical art, the statues, and paintings, and we noticed that, like, the idea of beauty fluctuated over time, and we really wanted to do something unique, something genuine. And we didn't want to, because this is like we knew that we want to start with this, but we wanted to make it clear that we don't want to sell our products with sex. We don't want to sexualize our designs, partially because we were drawing on classical art, which is really varied, and partly because we want to really explore those other shapes and body types. Because me myself, as a collector of miniatures, I get really bored with the shapes. Like there's a lot of samey stuff that's been released, and we wanted to do something else, and this was like the perfect project, the perfect merging of the two, because we could pay honor to our what's the word? Pay honor to our inspirations. We could create an like inclusive line that really showcased the beauty in all shapes and sizes, and we could create really fun and creative miniatures out of those. ideas. Like we could create really fun shapes, really fun. Like when you look at the nymphs, you'll probably know what I'm talking about.
Okay, well, that seems to be a good place to start looking at each of the individual nymphs. So I think what we'll do is I will just swap things over, and we'll start with the age nymph. Okay, so there is the age nymph. So let's talk about her. Tell us, who is she?
Well, the age nymph, as the name implies, is the nymph of time. She's like let's say she's like a phoenix. She's a creature that grows old really fast and then rejuvenates by shedding her old skin and becoming young again. And that was like one of the major ideas for us when like she, as I said, she established the whole nymph collection, because not only did we establish the style for our art with that nymph, we also established that we want to have each of the nymphs should have a really strong team and should really connect with all other parts of the universe. So there is a short story about her already out there. If anyone of you wants to read it, it's on our Kickstarter page at the moment. And yeah, so she's like a time manipulation creature. It's not known if she sees the future or just lives through history like a closed time cycle. But it's heavily implied that she may have some plans, like she may have some more knowledge about the events that transpired and the events that are yet to happen, and she's influencing those events slightly.
Right, I'll put on the, we've got obviously the original artwork there. That it is important to note that this artwork comes with all of the miniatures, doesn't it, per nymph, as we're taking a look at it?
So with our first collector's run, you get in each box, you get the model, obviously, then you get a certificate, and you get an art card of the nymph. The certificate and the art card are double-sided, so you get a story snippet, just a taste of what the nymph is about, to give you context about what she is.
Okay, so there we go. We've got the render of the actual miniature there, and just to welcome Asset Drop to the chat here. Really love the idea behind this mini, very cool sculpt. So welcome, Andy from Asset Drop. Glad you managed to join us tonight.
Hi, Andy.
So yes, we've got a really beautiful sculpt here, and of course, as people in the chat are obviously understanding that the age nymph there, she's peeling away the old skin and rejuvenated in a young form again. Yeah,
so that was really important for us, as we also this is also the nymph that we established with, that they wouldn't be over sexualized. So on one hand, you've got this young woman, but then if you look closely, it's rendered so you can turn it, but there's like the floppy floppy skin of the face and hair in the back, so if you look closely, it can be a really grotesque miniature, not really that thing that you thought you saw at first glance.
Well, what we'll do is, because that is one of the miniatures that I have here, so we will absolutely bring it under camera and scrutinize it once we've gone through the rest of these characters. Okay, so let us move on. So I'm going to do the video first, and let us move on then to the Blade Nymph. Now, this is a bit different. Okay, and so there is the Blade Nymph.
Yeah, exactly. So as I was saying, we wanted something different. She's a really battle-hardened creature, and in our lore, she's actually let's say she comes to the most worthy warriors and issues them a challenge. She says that their weapon will always be sharp, like really sharp, and they will win every fight with it, unless they don't feel worthy. Like this is like a because with each nymph we wanted to try to create this this fun fable-like dynamic, and so with each of the designs we tried to create a situation where the things that some of the nymphs, at least the gifts that they bestowed upon the people, were like double-edged swords. So with the story, no one ever is worthy. Like eventually everyone, like even the most cocky, the most brave soldiers, after receiving the Vorpal blade, and this is like an inside joke to D&D, by the way. When one receives the Vorpal blade, they slowly start to become uncertain about their skills, because they've heard that each person offered the blade from the nymph eventually fails. And so this is like a self-fulfilling prophecy for those warriors. And yeah, so the sculpt comes with two heads. There's the one with the visor, which you can see on the art, and there's also a one without it, for those of you who don't like the science fantasy stuff. And the last thing you might notice while looking at this art, two things, is that you've got this creature in the distance. It's nobody has for now commented on that, but you've got this large creature in the distance, and also you've got the thing that she's leaning on. And if you look closely, that's a broken edge of a blade, like but just a gigantic blade, and that will lead really well into that will lead really well into Eschaton and Odyssey, which we'll talk about maybe later.
There's a little bit of a tease there for something for the future. I will hang on to that. Okay, so yes, I mean, we do have a truly wonderful character here, and I really like the sort of the sci-fi element. I mean, can you go into any detail as far as the eyepiece?
Yeah, so funny thing is, the eyepiece is like I want to say, like I want to have it stay an Easter egg. But the eyepiece was because she determines if someone is worthy or not. So if someone is strong or not, let's say. So it's reminiscent of a certain eyepiece that was used in a prominent anime series. that's all I'm gonna say. But I think it's a fun inside joke. She uses the eyepiece to determine value. Like we imply that she thinks that the worthiness of people is something that can be measured mathematically. Like this is not a question of like worth or a question of how do I put it? Let's basically say that she thinks that it can be mathematically proven if someone is worthy or isn't.
Ooh, this is interesting. I'm trying to work out what anime that might be. So Pascal's saying DBZ.
I see that someone in the comments already figured it out. So yeah, yeah.
Okay, Pascal's on fire. All right, then. So let's take a look at the actual sculpt. And there we go. And again, all of the miniatures within the range all have a scenic base with them, don't they?
Yeah. That's the thing we've decided upon really early. We always want to do a scenic base because it's like it really adds to the experience, and in some cases informs the model, which I think we'll talk about later too. But in some cases, the base is really important to convey the idea of the miniature. So yeah, so here you can see that she's got some battle scars, she's got some branding tattoos or something else, which we may talk about later with the labyrinth nymph. She also has a back tattoo, which is also like this is really neat stuff that you can really put like the tiniest detail in every model, and it really shows when you paint her.
Right. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to move on then. And I thought this particular model was quite sort of unique, and I really like the design on this one. So if I run the video first, and then we can discuss her in greater depth. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll leave the jokes, yes. Okay then, and so there we have the depths nymph.
Yeah, so she's one of the like with the earlier nymphs we really we're sticking to the general human anatomy, and she's one of the nymphs that we started to experiment with what we can get away with. Can we make the hair look like water? Can we make her skin look like bark or leaves? Can we make her can we make a nymph grow feathers out of their hands? So yeah, so she was also a blueprint for that. And as you can see, she also has this helmet with the tentacle creature stuck inside it. The helmet was based on gear from the 19th century, but with a like this our retro futuristic sci-fi fantasy twist on it, put on it. And from the story point of view, we wanted, like, in the absence of Poseidon, we wanted to have this creature that, like, usurps the seas or oceans, and we also wanted to create this layered history of the oceans. Like, we use the myth of Atlantis sinking, but we also tell other stories, like there were other things beneath the waves really well before Atlantis sank, or maybe even before Poseidon took the oceans into his possession. So she's one of the more enigmatic nymphs, and she's also one that's like her purpose or her agenda is more clear, because she's recruiting people into her fold. Like, she's creating a court for herself beneath the waves, so she can help fishermen or sailors, but she requires their let's say soul. Like, she requires their like a life debt from them.
Okay, just looking at some of the chat here. Paranoid Spectre is saying, "This is so beautiful. This is just getting better and better." So I think
I think when we get to the stretch goal nymphs, which we really went overboard with, I think they're gonna like them.
Yeah. Again, when we think of the conversation at the top of the interview where people were not familiar with Into the Unknown or Aeon Trespass, yes. Okay, so let's take a look at the actual render. And again, we've got this wonderful scenic base and just all the detail that is part of the miniature. It's just exquisite.
Yeah, we really tried to this is a thing that we, as I said before, we try to make her look wet, make the scenery look wet. There's also this beautiful ornamentation on the faceplate of the helmet, or helm rather, and yeah, you've got those cascading water hair. Yeah, I really like this model. She's my favorite, but she's in the top 5, I think.
Oh, don't share your favorites yet, because we want
I'm just building up to it. Like,
yeah. We want to ask the chat to see what your favorite might be. See if we can guess. Okay, so I am just looking for the next one. So Snink80 is just saying, where do I give my drachma to buy? And what is the scale of the miniatures?
Well, the scale of the miniatures is 32 millimeters from toes to eyes, without counting the base. So yeah, so that's the first scale we are working with. I think we'll be going higher with our next project.
Okay.
And we're also considering making some of the nymphs in a limited quantity in higher scales as well, but that's for another time maybe.
So sort of angling towards the sort of painter groupings out there, I guess, the hardcore painters who want the bigger scale, or the painters like me who can't see as well.
You know, we just think that like those are really beautiful sculpts, and we really like. There's some things that you won't ever see in 32 millimeters. Like there's the detail that you can't really see now that's there, and if we bump the scale, we could show it. So that's just the idea of, like, this is not maybe a financial decision, but more of a passion decision to just show off the work we've put in.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Pascal's just commenting, saying how he loves the artwork of the hair is pouring water, and that would be really cool to work it out further in the paint job with added water effects. Of course, you get so many hobby supplies. Obviously, Asset Drop is a great source for those type of things. So, yes, some sort of water effect to extend it beyond. the base. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not. I love to paint miniatures. I'm not the best painter, so maybe I'm not the authority on that. But yeah, that's definitely what I would do and what I'm doing actually. But I won't be showing my my painted nymphs, but maybe some other miniatures.
Okay. So then we have what we looked. We've looked at age. We've looked at blade. We've now looked at depths. Now we're going to move on to something which really does embrace the, I suppose, the futuristic sort of side of the setting, and that is the engine nymph.
Oh yeah, that's like I think that's the one that's really the most. I wouldn't say she is obviously futuristic, but I think that she's also the one that we can relate to the most. Like she's, well, again, I'm not gonna jump on the conversation. Let's see the trailer and then talk about her.
Okay, and so there we are. We have the engine nymph.
Yeah. So she's the pose we chose for her is she's obviously underneath some type of mechanical device, an engine, let's say, and she's looking up and fixing it. And in the lore, she's like a reverse gremlin, if you know what I mean. The gremlin in 1920s, around that time, people were thinking that if something broke on let's say a plane, it must have been gremlins, like creatures that just mischievous creatures that break something. And she's the opposite. She appears when an engineer makes like a miraculous save, like an engineer moves the heavens to fix something, and they succeed. They do something incredible, and then the nymph shows up to just help the situation. Let's say, like one of the high-tech places in the world of Eon Trespass is the iron ship itself, the Argo, and it's got some mysterious tech inside it. And even the engineers that run it don't understand it fully. But when the ship is under strain, it's attacked or something's happening, and they manage to stave off the doom for a bit. The nymph shows up and helps them, and like she can make an engine run twice as fast. She can make some pumps more efficient, like to the point of being magic. And she also helps the engineers with their work by giving them tools. But the funny thing is that the tools she gives her are mostly integrated into those engineers. Things like the blade nymph eye, for example, would be an example of this kind of tech. So among engineers in the world, it's believed that she's actually slowly making the engineers that she favors less man and more machine.
It's Greek Borgs.
Red goes faster.
Okay, wow, this is fascinating. So let's take a look at the sculpt. There she is.
Yeah, and the scat actually gave us some trouble earlier because it was really hard. Like that, with the first iteration of this model, we had the body and head as one piece, and we really couldn't get the details of the head that we wanted. So we had to go back to the drawing board, make other cuts, like cut her head, and then remaster it, and then remold her, etc., etc. So she's actually, she doesn't look like that, but it was really quite a complicated design to pull off in this scale.
This was actually, yes, this is something that I found quite fascinating, and I will show at the end, because you have a workshop website which helps people to put together their nymphs once they receive them. Yeah. And I found that really, really helpful. I thought it was a nice touch.
Thank you. Well, the funny thing is that at first we didn't really think about it. We really didn't like, because most of the early models had like 3 or 4 parts. Like resin allows us to create larger parts with this type of detail. But when we created the night nymph and we looked at the parts for the night nymph, we said to ourselves, like, no, like without an instruction, nobody's gonna know how to put this one. And then when we said, like, if we're doing one, we can like do all of them. Like some people enjoy putting the miniatures together. Like they treat it like a puzzle. Like for me, like this is one of the like I love this part of the hobby. Like putting miniatures together is like Lego for adults. Like Lego is also for adults. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm like I was specifically thinking about it because this was a thought I had when I was putting together the Phoenix from Kingdom Death. Like because I didn't even look at the sprue, and I just cut all of the small hands without looking at the numbers. I don't know if you know about the Phoenix. It's got like large wings and like 25 little small hands that you put on them. And this became like a puzzle for me. There were no instructions on the net then. But I loved it. Like that's why I thought, like, this is Lego for me. I loved putting Lego together, and now I've got this. But not all people like to put them together. Like a lot of people just want to paint them, and putting them is just a task that they need to do to get to the fun part. So we don't want to force anyone to try to figure out how to put the models together. So we put the workshop up, and I think that in the future we're gonna go even further and maybe put the instructions right in the boxes, so people just can make the miniatures right out of the box.
No, it's a great added touch. It does certainly help. I'm just looking at the chat here. So Paranoid Spectre is, wow, this is really awesome. And then Pascal with his intricate eye, maybe he has the Blade Nymph's robotic eye, because he inquires, is she biting her lip? That is brilliant.
She's biting her lip, yeah.
So deep in thought as she's tinkering and she's biting her lip just unconsciously.
Yeah. This is also what I do. It's not based on me, but I always like bite my lip when I'm concentrated and work on something. So, yeah, we do have like really, if you look through all of the miniatures, you'll find that we try to put as much of those little details in there as we can. Like the scale sometimes limits us on what we can show, but we try to put as much into them as we can.
To which, of course, as you sort of allude to, if you are to increase the scale size, then of course those details are going to be more obvious to the painters. But these are nice little Easter eggs for us in the chat to try and spot. and of course it humanizes the sculpt as well, which then makes them feel even more dangerous, that they have human characteristics but they're not quite human.
Yeah, that's like we got asked about the age nymph. Like someone asked us, why do we create such a? We created this. You created this model, this really realistic looking model, and why did you not work on her eyes better? Like why did you put those type of eyes? And the reason is because if you look at the concept artwork, you'll see that some of them don't have human features. Like they've got those larger eyes on them, they've got ears, larger ears or longer ears, etc., etc. So they are humanoid, but they are not human.
Okay. So, and Snoyak saying here, Westworld vibes buzzing. Okay.
Could you pull the could you pull the whole render again?
So just there you go.
Yeah. So when you look at the small, let's say, canister, one thing that we weren't able to do at that time, we wanted to put like an ancient biohazard sign on the whole thing, on the tripod. But we created a lot of designs, 2D designs, but a lot of them were too similar to our biohazard symbol, and it looked really out of place. And the other ones looked so dissimilar that you couldn't make the reference. So we said maybe next time. But yeah, so we always try to think in those categories, like what can we, like what modern idea can we take and make an ancient retro futuristic element out of them.
Okay, shall we move on? And yeah. I think this is kind of similar to some degree to the engine nymph, certainly in the same sort of arena. And we're going to look at the forge nymph.
Oh yeah, that's also one of the first nymphs we created. So
okay, so let me run the videotape. Okay, and so there we go.
So So I really love this design. I think it's got it all, as a matter of speaking, for this line, because it's got the plus size body type, which isn't really that common in miniatures. It's got like the classical idea of being in a forge, being a blacksmith, and yet it's got those futuristic elements. Like you've got this really elaborate ornate anvil, which on the miniature you can see that there's a cable going out of it. And you also have this little detail, like if you look at her head, you'll see that she has a welder's mask with a one cyclopean eyepiece. But in reality, when you look closer, you'll see that the welding mask is created from her hair. So the hair is slowly becoming the welder's mask. And she also has those overly large eyes. She's got horns, so you know that she's not human. All in all, I really love this miniature.
That's a wonderful little bit of detail in regards to the welder's mask. I didn't catch that, and that's amazing.
Yeah, this is like there are things like that which we can talk about later, like with the not labyrinth, but with the knowledge nymph and several others. Like there's a lot of this type of stuff that we really try to like really thought those designs through. Like it's not just put together. We really sat down and talked about it, what we want to show. So yeah. And talking about lore-wise, this is one of the I think the like a darker theme nymphs, in that she's got like there's this idea of her allowing a person to create something fabulous, like she might be the inspiration for an engineer or artificer, and that person just gets singular-minded and on only creating that one thing, that masterpiece, and the person forgets about the whole wide world when he or she is like under the spell of inspiration. And those people mostly lose everything they had in life just to create that little masterpiece. And then at the end, when the masterpiece is finished, the nymphs just show up, takes the artifact and leaves, never to appear again to that person. So we internally we call her the workaholic because of the connotation. But yeah, so yeah. Do you have any questions about that? Because I think that this story ties also into the larger part of the mythos of Aeon Trespass.
So Pascal is asking, would she have close ties with the engine nymph in that case?
Yeah, that's not out of the question, because like those are the things that I don't want to deny outright or agree with, but yeah, there are definitely connections, and you might see event chains between those several of the nymphs. Like you might see, like let's say the engine nymph inspires someone to create something, and then maybe the engine maybe the engine nymph can then show up with some contraption to help someone. So maybe those are the same thing, but it's never stated outright, and it's never proven in lore by anyone. There's one person that follows the exploits of the nymphs. We call him the nymph sage, and he's like this chronicler of all things nymphs, but even he doesn't know if that's a connection.
So we'll just put up the render there so we can see the detail. And both Snowyak and Paranoid Spectre are in unison with the comment, "Take my money."
Well, you'll have a chance for that really soon.
Never say no, yes?
Oh.
So no, again, another beautiful sculpt, and I think was it Paranoid Spectre who was saying, somebody said that the anvil, what an awesome sort of sculpting and detail to it.
Yeah, we this is the thing that we like when we set out to create the technology of Aeon Trespass. We always wanted it to have this flavor, this ancient flavor. Like we didn't want to just straight up do sci-fi. And I think we will talk about it later too. But this is a perfect example of this, like taking something out of a sculpture and making it at the same time retro and futuristic.
And several people in the chat have commented on the inclusive body designs of the sculpts. That are really positive, that we are seeing characters of different shapes and sizes as we are, as a humanity is, as opposed to us all being Photoshop generated.
Yeah, that's like, because even if we forgo all talk about inclusivity, making the same type of body type gets really old really quickly. Like like we do have one nymph that's more sexualized than the others. I think we have this one exception that's really got this like real pin-up pose, just to show that type of body type and situation. But most of them we really try to go for the natural look. So
I'm
really glad that people appreciate it.
you know, having obviously seen the entire range, and I think this is more than likely one of your sort of concept ideas was that they do look like statues of the era if they ever were to have been made in this sort of style.
That's exactly it.
Great. Okay, so we've done the Forge Nymph. Now I've got to try and pronounce this correctly. The Amalthean Nymph.
Amalthean.
Amalthean.
Yeah. This is because this is about the like Amalthea is the like this goddess that like this protective goddess in the shape of a goat, like a giant goat. And you have this connection with the in the miniature that like you can see that in the miniature pretty plainly that this is an inspiration for us.
Okay, so let's run the video. Okay, there she is.
Yeah, that's actually the model that almost got us banned from Kickstarter and Facebook. And if you go to the Kickstarter page, you'll see that in the first Kickstarter picture, we had to pull the jug higher to just cover her breasts because the algorithm blocked all of those images. So yeah, that's a fun fact from our campaign. And yeah, you can see she's feeding the milk to those little goatlings, and that's also her lore is that she visits the gravely wounded as Amalthea did in mythology, and she gives them the milk which helps heal their wounds. The downside of this is that there's a creature that follows in her steps, like a thing that's killing everyone she saves. Like this is like a because she at face value she's one of the most hopeful nymphs in that she heals people and that's all she does. She doesn't require anything from them. But then you've got this like almost serial killer creature that is bent on killing everyone she saved for some reason. And yeah, we also like on the with little stories about this. We had some trouble rendering the little goat, like not rendering the little goat, casting the little goat. Like those ears were really hard to cast. We had to recast because they on the first master, the artist provided us with the model of the little goat without with separate ears. Those separate ears were so small, like we couldn't cast them, we couldn't put them on a sprue, we couldn't do anything with them, so we had to remake the little goat.
Okay, and so let's take a look at the render. So yes, I mean again we've got the whole scene, and so, as people sort of pointing out, seeing the hooved feet there. She's got that animalistic form, hasn't she?
Exactly. She's only partly human, so this is one of the examples you can clearly see. But they are not human, but creatures. She's got the legs, and if you turn her around, I don't know if you have the render of her back, but she also has a tiny tail.
Right. Yeah, I think we could see that in the concept, couldn't we? Let's.
Yeah, I think yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. So yeah, so do you want to know anything about this one? This actually, because I think we're closing in on the first 10, I think.
Yes, we are indeed. Yes.
Yeah. So she's been one of the original 10 miniatures we set out to do. And yeah, I don't know if you want to know anything more about this one.
Okay, well, people can always fire questions in, but Asset Drops just commented saying, "Wow, that's a great backstory." So a bit like the Final Destination movies.
Yeah, something like there's a because we always want to tell interesting stories. So there's always this we always try to leave some mystery in why something happens, but we also think about it. Like it's not just set up like that. It's not just mechanical the fate correcting itself or something like that, but there is a really compelling reason for that to happen.
Okay. Maylenef has a question, and only one question: how do we get them?
Well, you go back in time to November.
I think we've got an easier way for you, Maylenef. Don't you worry. We'll get to that eventually.
Yeah. We're gonna talk about that later. So.
Okay. So now we'll move on to another character, and again, a very, very unique design. Given of all the sort of characters that are available out there in the hobby, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Okay, so if I run the video, and then we'll get some comments and we'll talk about it in depth.
Great.
There we go. So this is the Sweets Nymph.
Yeah, and I love this nymph and this concept. She's one of the more light-hearted nymphs we have, but still with an edge. Her story is that she comes and she's a party creature, and she creates fun and excitement around her, and you can really feel relaxed in her presence, and that the parties can go on for days. And she's been known to visit something like last chancers or last stands, people that are doomed to die. That's a part of her stories, that she sometimes comes and creates a feat for them. But I love the concept, and I love the miniature. I think it's one of our best miniatures. The miniature is really packed. Like if you look around her, it's not only the nymph, but also all of her surrounding. She's again got this plus size body type, and even if you look closer, you'll see that there's still the science part of our science fantasy, because the seat she's on, it's got mechanical legs. Like if you can look at it closely, it's meant to walk, so she doesn't even need to stand up from her seat.
I think we've zoomed in there. Is that?
Yeah, I think it was clear in the movie when because there's a turntable there. So it was, and it was actually this part was inspired. I don't know if you can recall it, but her seat was inspired by the by Star Wars Episode 1 Phantom Menace, uh, where you have one of the scenes on Naboo, later scenes on Naboo, where there's a hologram of the Emperor, I think. Still, like, spoilers, but Darth Sidious, and the projector of the hologram is moving with the people there. So yeah, that was the inspiration for this moving seat.
I'm trying to think. Isn't there a character in Futurama that is on a seat that moves?
Yeah, actually, I know the reference, like, and it's a Greek, not Greek, but Roman, like it's Robo.
Yes.
The Caesar, that's it's Robo Nero or something like that.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah. So yeah, but we weren't inspired by that. But yeah, it's the same type of. I know it's in Polish. It's called a szezlong, I think. The type of seat she's on. Like, you can sit on it, or you can lean on it, or you can lie on it. So it's definitely that type of. The type of furniture, let's say. Great.
No, I mean, again, wonderful amount of detail, very, very unique sculpt. I mean, just looking at some of the comments here, the dynamics of this whole piece is just wow. I'm missing words here. And Paranoid Spectre is trying to throw money at his screen, but miniatures are not arriving to him. Apparently, that's not how it's done. He doesn't understand what's going on.
It's not, but we have, like, let me go full advertisement here. But we've got a really great shipping partner, and we had when we shipped the nymphs, some of the nymphs started to be delivered, to show up at the doorstep of our backers. In Australia, less than a week from the point we sent them. So, like, lightning fast for shipping.
That's brilliant. And so Snowy X saying, yes, it's a Shea Lounge, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay then, and so we have the Knowledge Nymph.
Yeah, and I think it's also one of the interesting ones. Like, all of them are interesting, but this one is, I think, got it all. Like, she's got a great base, she's got a great sculpt, and she's got a really, really interesting backstory that feeds into the whole mythology of Eon Trespass. At the same time, she's classical. We've got the books, we've got the scrolls, and we also have the viewer, and we've got the futuristic element. We've got the mythology element with her owl wings attached to her head. Like, I love this one. So the knowledge nymph comes to people seeking knowledge, like, comes to scholars, and she helps them find it. Like, think of, I don't know if you know this, but think of the Dreamlands from Lovecraftian mythos. So in ancient times, there was this library at Alexandria that was supposed to be the largest one ever in the ancient world. Later it got destroyed, but in our chronology, it got destroyed with the whole Alexandria city at the time of the eschaton. But the knowledge nymph comes to the scholars in their dreams, and she helps them find a way to a dreamlike Pharos, like to a dreamlike Alexandria. The Pharos is the lighthouse that was one of the wonders of the world and was in Alexandria. So in that way, she helps people find the lost knowledge, that the knowledge that really doesn't really exist in the world at that time. She helps them recover it, but there's always a catch with the nymphs. So the scholar needs to get back to himself or to his body or leave Alexandria by dawnbreak. If he doesn't, he's lost forever in the doomed city, forever to relive the fall of the city and the terrible, horrible things that really happened there. Because there's no Alexandria on the map when at the start of the setting, like it was wiped off the face of the earth.
Right. Okay, that's really interesting. So let's go and take a look at the render.
Yeah.
There she is.
And so, like, there's a lot of detail really packed into it. Like, you can see when you look at the books, we've got even individual pages, like those little lines that I think will really look really good when painted. When you use a shade, some shader, I think it's gonna look really, really fun. Like, there's a lot of detail packed into this one. You can, if you don't want to, you can leave the futuristic pulpit thing out of the model. So that's separate part. So if someone doesn't appreciate the science fantasy part of our setting, they can have the fantasy and leave the sci-fi out.
So from what I can sort of see of the sculpt, does it look like that her arms have got forearms have got feathers on? Should we zoom on in?
Exactly. Her arms got feathers, and she's got more of a bird-like fingers, like they've got talons on them. And this is actually on the scalp. You can see it here, but she's got really some of the not all of the fingers, but some of the fingers have talons on them.
Right.
And you can't really tell if it's a helmet or helm, or if it's part of her head.
Yeah, Pascal's commenting, obviously from the video, nice tush.
Yeah, this is the one I said that's got the most pin-up pose.
So exclamation booty for the chat. And hello, Alex Attempts Tabletop. Thank you very much for raiding and joining in on the channel. We are taking a look at Aeon Trespass Nymphs from Into the Unknown Studio. Our guest tonight is the creative director of the studio, Marcin Welnicki. Did I do it right?
Yeah, you're getting closer and closer with each attempt.
Hey! Okay, so let us move on to the next nymph, which is the Labyrinth Nymph. Okay then, so here we go. This is the Labyrinth Nymph.
Yeah, and what you might have noticed in the trailer, it's the hair. The hair is like the centerpiece of the figure because it's so large, and the hair really gave us headaches during production. Mostly because it's not done in the traditional way hair is done in miniatures of this kind. Is that if you want to make a one-piece hairpiece, you really want all the hair to go in one direction, because if they go in different directions, the strands of hair, it can really damage the mold. So we really tried to cast her with like the hairpiece and the head in as one piece, but we couldn't do it. Like we either lost detail on the face, or we damaged the molds. So we finally also went back to the drawing board. We cut the face out of the whole hair, the head, and that's how she was shipped. And as for the story, she's one of the nymphs really closely tied to the history or the storylines of the game we're working on. She's the labyrinth nymph, and the first story we tell in the game is the truth of the labyrinth. This is the story that takes place on Crete after the events of the maze. So Theseus successfully killed the Minotaur. It's been about 10 years after that, and now King Minos is gone, and there's this cult of people. They call themselves the Labyrinthians, and they believe in the maze. Like this is their faith is that life is like a maze. It's a very nihilistic. Like this is. Let me go on a side tangent for a bit. This is one of the I think of the strong sides of our setting, is that we try to really tackle like important issues philosophically, and each of our like enemies or antagonistic groups or deities, etc., they aren't evil or greedy or anything just because they've got a sophisticated and reasonable, if you try to explain it, reasonable philosophy behind them. So this cult here really believes that after the gods are gone, there's really no point in living, and that life is just a mess, a chaotic mess like the labyrinth. And they try to spread this idea. And at the same time, there's also a disease that's spreading, and you can see it on the pattern on the nymph. This is the labyrinthian plague. People start to get geometric shapes, like geometric indentations in their bodies, and this means that they've been exposed to this pathogen of unknown origin. So this nymph is also like symbolic because yeah, you can look at the patterns, and she's symbolic because Ariadne, who helped Theseus maneuver through the maze, she gave him the what was it called? It's wool. She gave him wool, or
a thread, the wool to guide through the labyrinth.
A thread. Yeah, we couldn't make a thread as a piece, a separate piece on the miniature, but we gave the nymph those tattered rags that trail behind her to symbolize this connection, and she also has a knife in her hand, and that's because the nymph is like the embodiment of the labyrinth. She isn't aligned with the labyrinthians, and she helps some people go through the labyrinth while she deceives others and leaves them for dead. And that's what the knife in her hand symbolizes, that she can cut the thread at any moment.
Oh, right, that's quite dark.
Yeah, well, we never said that we were making a happy world. We're not making a really grim world. Like we try to balance those things. Like we want to have a realistic world with realistic interactions between people and the subgroups. We want to have some dark moments. We want to have some levity. We want to have it all because we want to create an adventure like the Odyssey, which is full of terror, but it's also full of wonder.
And as you pointed out, yes, the hair on this particular miniature really is the standout feature. It truly is fantastic. As everybody on this channel knows, exclamation fantastic for the hair on this mini.
Yeah, it was really yeah.
And Eugene is saying
she gave us a lot of headaches during the production, but now that she's out, we're really happy that it turned out like this.
Cool. Eugene is saying awesome illustration. Snowyak saying dreaming about all the colors you could possibly paint her in. Paranoid Spectre saying
all the illustrations for the 10 original nymphs were created by Mateusz, our art director. So
okay, Snowyak's asking me to break my format of presentation here. Is there a render from the back? Hang on a second. God, what you like, you guys. Hang on. I do have one. Where is she? Okay, here we go. Let's hopefully that works. There you go. Look at that hair.
Yeah, that's something.
That's again, as regular followers on the channel know, I've been painting up last month a mermaid styled miniature that does have wonderful hair, but nothing compared to this character. Oh, here we go. So that the hypes and the claps are all happening now.
Yeah, I think it's like when the design of the miniature and the story and the art all click, that's like we know that it's a great concept and a great miniature. So.
Okay, and so that brings us now to the last of the original 10 Kickstarter miniatures, which is Solitude. Okay then, and so Paranoid Spectre starts the chat with gasp. There is nothing more to say than gasp.
Yeah, so this one is also great, and this one also gave us headache because of the if you pull on the render for a second,
okay,
you'll see that there's a lot of spaces in between the leaves, and they are really small. So it was really like a balancing act to make it all not break, to make it be a really stable miniature, and to be faithful to the art. And I think we did it like longer than most nymphs, but I think it was worth it. As for the lore, this nymph lives in complete wilderness, and it's a nymph that let's say she's a siren of the land, in that she attracts hunters. She attracts people of great skill that hunt animals, they hunt monsters, and one thing to another, and they begin to think that they've hunted everything that they could, and that there's this one more elusive prey, the solitude nymph, a creature that lives in total loneliness. So they embark on this journey through to the wilderness and to barren lands, and they leave civilization behind to go and find her. And each time the hunter learns that it is not he who is the hunter, but he's the prey, and he falls and dies. And from him, like when this hunter that leaves everything behind and goes to this place of solitude, when he dies, the solitude nymph springs up from him like a flower. So that this is also the as I noted before, it's one of the themes of the nymphs, that things may not seem what they are, and the hunter was by looking for solitude, by looking for this thing, he placed himself basically, and becomes the fertile ground that the solitude nymph springs from.
That is fascinating, and of course it's another character that blends I'll say nature into the design. So I can see with her hands we've got leaves and branches sort of extending from her.
Yeah, exactly. She's got that tail made of leaves. She's got the hair made of leaves and the hands. While her, if you look at the leg, it's more covered with like fungi. So that's a nice touch. And if you look at the base, you'll see the hunter that she springs from. That's one thing. So there's this detail of the hunter. But you can, if you look at what he's wearing, and if you look at it from the top, you'll see that he's wearing a really crude exo armor. Like he's got this exoskeletal armor on him that probably boosted his abilities while he was still alive. So that's the science part again cropping up, and I think not many people really see that when they look at the nymph.
Right. Snowy Axe commenting here saying you need at least two versions of her, an autumn and a summer and spring.
Well, that's a great idea, actually.
And May Lenif says, can you make a winter version which is 18 plus?
We'll think about it.
But Eugene is saying it's an extremely beautiful and detailed miniature, which indeed it is.
Yeah, I think we've done really great with this one.
Okay, so and Andy from Asset Drop saying, I didn't see that until you pointed it out. Fantastic. Okay, so that then concludes, as I say, the original 10, but your Kickstarter was so popular, people didn't want just 10, they wanted more, didn't they?
Yeah, and then that's also a funny thing, because we're not a big company, so we didn't have stretch goals planned before the campaign. We had ideas and some really early sketches for the next few nymphs, but we didn't know if they would make it or not. And we also were really new to Kickstarter, so we didn't know how the Kickstarter, there's the bell curve to the campaigns, and so we found ourselves at the end of the campaign, we found ourselves smashing one goal after another, which was really fun, but we really didn't have miniatures right then. Like we created concept art for the nymphs, but we started to work on those nymphs right at the end of the Kickstarter and just after the Kickstarter.
So let us move on. So the first of the new Kickstarter goals nymphs was the Night Nymph.
Yes, and she's got a lovely backstory. I think I've written it, so I of course I think it's lovely, but I think she also has a fun concept behind it. The Night Nymph is a creature that was there almost instantly after the eschaton happened, and she wears the cloak of Nyx, or tatters of the cloak of Nyx. Nyx being the Greek goddess of the night, and her agenda, the thing she does is she helps people become unseen at night. She helps people sneak around or travel distances at night without being seen, or with even there's a the characters that she meets are not sure about this, but there's a bit of folding space in that the distances seem to be shortened while people travel under her protection. But she, after she helps someone, she really demands the most precious things they have, and that's not money or jewels or anything like that. She's got this also fable-like quality to her, and I think she's the most complicated. If we can go to the sculpt, I think she's the most complicated sculpt we have. In fact, that she's got a lot of parts in there. It's not like this is not the best angle. I think I don't know if we have a better one.
Well, let me take a look.
Yeah, but you can see that there's a lot of the cloak. The cloak is almost a character of its own in this miniature. And yeah, there's a lot of putting things together. So she is the reason there's a workshop on our page, as I mentioned before. And I think she's a lovely sculpt and art.
Yeah, Paranoid Spectre saying, "Damn, that's a lot of motion in the model."
Yeah, this is a thing we started to explore with the nymphs, and with our newer models, which we haven't showed a lot of. We went in further. Like we really want the models to show motion, to be dynamic.
And that's exactly what Asset Drops just said. Love all the dynamic movement in these miniatures.
Then you love our output for in the next coming month.
Okay, so that's the Knight. So let's move on to Hope. And again, I think this is a very interesting design. Not typically sort of seen in the hobby world, but here we go.
Yeah, I think it's a great design. I love that it really blends well with the story for her. Yeah, so you have this this mother with the child, and this is depicted on the miniature. She's breastfeeding the child, and you can also see that she's made her hair becomes the clouds or smoke around her, and you can see a tiny hint of faces in there. And her story is that she's known to travel around the mountains, and she takes in orphans and tries to raise them or eat them, or like people don't know what happens to the children she takes in, but she is very, very protective of them. And if you go to the sculpt again, I see the comments. Yeah, this is a thing that I also thought that she might really end up in the Kingdom Death world, because of the hair becoming smoke and the faces that are in there. Like you've got, like, I think there's this might be a trivia question, like how many faces are there in there? And I think there's 4 or 5 faces. We don't see all of them from this angle, but I don't know if you can see it, but it's a larger sculpt because of the hair and because of the smoke. And I really love it, the way it ended up. Like we weren't sure we can pull it off. I think the most stunning one is of the faces is the one that we can see right now that's behind her head. No, I really love this model. I don't know if people share my view, but I think it's very unique, and we'd like to do more stuff like this in the future.
Okay. Well, certainly when we get to the final one, I think we do need to open it out to the chat to basically find out what was their favorite nymph, and we will be asking you what your top 3 are. So, but Acid Drop saying those faces in the smoke are creepy, but loves the the Kingdom Death Monster style. I think it's great that you have a little of that vibe in these models too. Adds to the mystery and the intrigue.
Yeah, well, this is the part of the, like, because she's on one hand she's seen as the benevolent mother, like she takes those orphans in and cares for them, but it's really not, like, people are not sure if this is a person that creates those smoky faces, or that it's just a giant smoke monster that creates the person. So that's one of the mystery of this creature, is that which one of those things is the real part of the creature.
Wow. And didn't you say that people went missing? Maybe those are the people in the smoke.
Maybe they are.
Okay, so again, now I have a nymph that I'm going to struggle pronouncing. So this should hopefully be the Nietzschean nymph.
Oh, I think it's Nietzschean. Like
Nietzschean.
Nietzsche,
As in the philosopher.
Yeah, this might be a bit on the nose, but we really like the sound of the words, so we used it. It's the Nietzschean nymph. Yeah,
Nietzschean
exactly.
nymph.
Yeah, and she also, like, you'll see what she's based on when you see her. Like, this is also a reference to an anime, and you'll know which anime this is again. We wanted to do a bodybuilder type nymph, another type of posture. So here she is. She's larger than most of the nymphs standing up. I see in the comments section they know what I'm talking about.
It's Pascal again with his awesome anime knowledge.
yeah, and she's actually, she's got like several, like, she was the Easter egg nymph because she's also got two other Easter eggs. She's got the little spots on her body. If you close in on the neck area, you'll see like little spots. And that's a reference to Star Trek and the race of Trill.
Oh yes, Jadzia Dax.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that, and you can also see like spikes protruding from her forearms, and that's a super Easter egg, because there was this TV show in the late 90s and early 2000s called Andromeda. It was starring Kevin Sorbo, and it was a so-so show, but there was this thing in there. They also had a race called the Nietzscheans. So we wanted to have this little reference for people who knew that we also knew that someone used this name before for a person or a race. So we put those in there. And yes, it's the shame. It's a shame we couldn't put them on the mini in this scale, but they were so tiny. If we did this model again, I would consider doing the arms in not in resin but in metal, just to get those tiny spikes in there.
So was this mini more of a sort of fun project for the studio?
Yeah, this was like not exactly, because we put a lot of references in there, and this was really fun. But on the other hand, she's really tied to another of our story arcs in our campaign of the game. And so I don't want to spoil that, but she's also like there's also a person or creature that is just called the Nietzschean in there, who's been reshaping the Spartan society. Like think Spartans, but more. Like if you thought that Spartans were strict and like a masculine warlike culture. Think Ubermensch. So there's this movement going in there, like, because we try to show how different city-states of Greece tried to live after the eschaton, like the different ways that people try to cope with the loss of their gods. So you have the nihilism or nihilism of Crete, and then you got this almost fascist, almost racist ideology of the Nietzschean, who's about being really strong, really pure, to stand against the creatures that emerged after the eschaton.
Okay, wow.
And she ties into that storyline really well. That's all I'm gonna say at this point.
Okay, no. So I guess maybe sort of staying slightly with maybe an anime theme. The next nymph is the Machina nymph.
yeah. Well, the Machina nymph was also a fun project. Like you can see that we really had fun with this one. There's a lot of things going on in there. So let me break it down for you. So the nymph is like cybernetic, or the nymph is half flesh, half machine. You can't really tell what she is. She's got those large, long legs. The legs are based on prosthetic legs that we have right now. So they bend in two places, not in one. So that's why they are so long. And this is also a reference to satyrs of Greek mythology, because like you look at the mechanical legs and they are not really human. And this nymph, thinks, or is, it's up to you, or up to people to decide. She thinks that she is the descendant or the successor of Demeter or Gaia. So she thinks her role in the post eschaton world is to nurture nature. So she's helping local communities to reclaim the land that was lost after the eschaton. So that's basically her backstory, and the sculpt is also, I think, great. It's really large and detailed. I don't know if you can put it on there.
Yeah, there she is.
So there's a lot of going on. You can see the legs, like they start as human and become more and more machine-like when you go down, up to the feet that like bring it all around, because they are machine, but they also have a almost animal-like quality to them. You also have fabulous hair. You've got the nice horns, and you have the tree that we also put a lot of work into to make it stand out in terms of texture, like to contrast the sleek body of the nymph that may be also mechanical, to the bark-like texture of the tree.
Yeah, I absolutely. When I looked at this one, I liked the. I guess it's what juxtaposition, isn't it, of the mechanical female character with then the organic, natural wood of the tree that she's sitting upon.
Yeah, that's what we were going for. Like we with all the designs, we try to go for the less popular, not less popular, but less chosen stuff. Like we try to have our designs really creative. So we really want to show something new.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to, and I will say this is probably one of my favorite nymphs. And of course, as soon as I saw it, I instantly thought of Game of Thrones. I don't know whether that's fair to sort of say on it. It's a certain character that I could kind of see this sort of blending in a little bit. But this is the mask nymph.
Yeah, I know what character you're talking about right now. So yeah, so you might that's actually that's a fair comparison. The basis for this design was actually from the game I mentioned earlier. I mentioned the role-playing game Fading Suns. There were a cast of spies that could change shape. So that was the seed of this idea. But I can see how it relates to Game of Thrones in that. So let me explain the backstory of this one. So basically, this is a nymph that trades in masks, but some of the masks are faces and really lifelike faces. And sometimes, if you deal with her, you may get a new face and then start a new life. Or sometimes the nymph double crosses you and she steals your face or gives you a lesser face. So she's a patron of spies, of assassins, but only the most desperate people try to haggle with the nymph. And her motives are completely unknown. Like, people really try to figure out if she has an agenda or not, or if is she just a trickster type of character, but it's still unknown. So this is actually one of the models, one of the later models that we had fun with. There were actually a lot of more masks packed into the sculpt. We had some really like if you go for the sculpt, you'll see that we tried to cram a lot of them in there.
Really, really nice. And I love the sort of duplicity of the character, certainly from the concept artwork, where she's taking off what looks like a human face to reveal a masked face underneath it, to which, of course, that is a mask over another face. So you never quite know whom you're talking to.
We went back on the design and we made the face on the sculpt a bit less human, more like the face in the art, and less like the face in the render, which like we have this model also, but we really wanted to show the difference between the face that she has on the she holds in her hand and the face she has on her face, so to speak.
Okay. Again, I say this is one of my favorite. I really love the design. I love, you know, when you look at a miniature and instantly there is a huge amount of story even before you read up what the story is. This miniature is saying so much just by looking at her. So yes, definitely one of my favorite.
Yeah, if like if I can have some a note for this one. Like this is the nymph I'm personally a bit mixed about, but I'm really into details. So I to the last moment we tried to rearrange the faces, the masks on the inside of the cloak, and I'm still not yet satisfied with the position of all of them. Like there's I think there's we should have put one more in there. Like we should have just lowered some of the ones on the left and put just like I don't know if it's the Iron Man mask that was there and it's not here on the final sculpt. That's still sticking in my head, but I just tweaked this one a bit. So that's just my take on this one.
Right. Okay, and then we come on to the final nymph of the set, which is the Curiosity nymph.
Yeah. And this one is, I think, a bit controversial. Well, it may be controversial once you notice it, so I won't gonna spoil that. But on the lore side, she's she's a nymph that comes from Atlantis. That's why she's got this hairstyle and she's got this really bizarre looking clothes, because we wanted to show a different culture to the one that's on the mainland. of Greece. And finally, there's that different body type again. And the box. And the box is like we talked with this idea that this is a type of Pandora's box. Like there's something in there. And the curiosity nymph really she's really friendly, she's adventurous, she can help you, and she also has so many stories and so many mysteries that a lot of people really gravitate to her and are curious as to her origin and as to her mission and what's in the box. And sooner or later this really backfires for people. Like this is the proverbial curiosity that killed the cat. And as the nymph is more impervious to harm than her companions, sooner or later she's again traveling alone. And you can see that she's also holding this cube in her hand. This is also a nod to the advanced technology of Atlantis.
Okay, so I can't see this because I'm working on a very small screen, but it would seem that the chat have maybe noticed something controversial.
I think there is, but
so do I press you for answers, or does everybody go off and look later on?
I think everyone should just make up their mind about this one. And
should we just move on? So we'll look at the render. And again, we've got the box there, all nice detail.
Yeah, this one is also really detailed. This one of the, I think, I don't know if it's the last one we did or the semi-last one, but yeah, but we really like. But if we go to our updates, this one really went through a lot of iterations. Like we really struggled. Like you can see that in the concept art, there's the cube gravitates above her hand, for one thing, and there's a cable that goes from the. You see, there's a cable that goes from the cube just behind her, and that proved to be too hard to do justice. Like the cable had to be really thick, and that really didn't look that good. So we decided to just go a bit, to just change this concept a bit, and now the cable just wraps around her hand and goes on the side of the box.
Okay. Right then, let us. So that's the final nymph there. So let's bring you full screen, because now we can ask you some questions.
Sure.
Okay, so. Well, actually, no. Let's ask the chat first. So, everybody, what was your favorite nymph? If you just choose one, I know it's obviously very difficult to pick one out of the 16 because they've all got unique aspects to them. Some of them I've already seen in the chat that some of you have liked several of them and found it very difficult. Yes, it's hard to pick. Snake 80 is saying they're all amazing. And it being Greek, how I don't like them. But if he's going to put all his drachma into the water nymph, okay. So we definitely got one for the depths nymph. Pascal saying top 3 is engine, blade, and knowledge because of the tush.
I think you'll get a lot of answers like that. The knowledge nymph was one of our more popular nymphs.
Okay, Snowyak saying
that might be one of the reasons.
The forge, the depth, and the curiosity. Love minis like the welder one, so that will be the engineer. Engine nymph. Asset drop like the water nymph. Paranoid Spectre is saying the Curiosity Nymph.
Yeah, I also love that sculpt. Like if you like she's there's a lot of going on in that model. There's a lot of tiny detail, like there's carvings on the box that you don't see at first sight, for example.
So Andy from Asset Drop is saying likes the Water Nymph and the Labyrinth Nymph and the Masked Nymph. So Andy, could you see these as being minis in your Heron's box? Are these the type of minis you would go for? And Paranoid Spectre is saying Curiosity Nymph, followed by the Machina Nymph, the Solitude, the Labyrinth, the Depth, the Suites, the Engine, the Forge. You're just saying all of them, Paranoid.
Well, for me, I personally love the Swiss Nymph the best, I think. Because she, as I said, she's got it all. Like she encapsulates all that we want to show with Eon Trespass. With the unique sculpt, with a lot of detail, with fantasy, with the body shapes, with the science, and she's also a lovely sculpt. And she is one of the earlier sculpts. So that was the point when I saw that one. I knew that the campaign would be successful. Like we started something, we didn't know how it would go, but when I saw that one, I said like, okay, we're gonna be fine.
Okay, so Andy's just said here, definitely keen to look into that. They're all stunning. So I think maybe I will have to introduce Into the Unknown and Asset Drop and let you gentlemen have a discussion at some point. And I'm sure there will be lots of happy mini hobbyists out there.
We're always open to collaborations. So,
all right. So your favorite one was the Sweets Nymph.
Yeah.
And what were the most popular in the campaign then? Top three?
So the most popular nymphs were the Knowledge Nymph, as I said, and Solitude Nymph, and the Labyrinth Nymph. Those were the top three of all the 16. And the least popular nymph was the Nietzschean Nymph. But she was also the last nymph that we introduced. Like we had some problems. Like we had one sculptor do this nymph, and he left the job halfway, and we had to struggle and scramble to get another one. And the pledge manager was already open, so the sculpt arrived after most of the people already finished the pledge manager. So that may have factored into the numbers.
Right then, so we'll continue, but we are going to have to. We'll have obviously start wrapping it up because it's been a long conversation, but it's been so intriguing and so much details coming out. It's been fantastic. But you have mentioned a word several times tonight, eschaton.
Yes, I did. And well, that's the event that starts it all. Like this is the pivotal point of history in our world of Eon Trespass. So, and it's also coincidentally the name of our next Kickstarter campaign. So there's that.
Okay, so and when is this Kickstarter campaign starting?
Well, I've hinted that it's coming soon, and you may have seen some of our information that we put out on our Facebook page. The new Kickstarter campaign launches in September. First one of the new campaign that we did. So it was also a blueprint for the whole line, and as such, it had to have it all that we wanted to put in this particular line. So first of all, we are going a bit higher with the scale. This is heroic 35 millimeters. So this one has like 37 millimeters to the eyes. So that's one difference, because we wanted those. This is a Titan, by the way. This is one of the factions that are present in post Eschaton world. So this is one of the Titans, one of the, let's say, good guys. Let's say, because it's really fuzzy on that. And it shows all of the teams and items we want to show. So first of all, this creature is supposed to be about 10 meters tall in real life. So if you look closely, there are signs that point to this scale. Like if you look at his loincloth closer, you'll see that it's actually made from sails. Like there's still some some wood in there. Like it was hastily put together, because it was like this is one of the initial miniatures, like a really crisis situation. So they had to, and the thing is, this is a Titan, and the people I'm referring to, the people who clothed him, are the Argonauts, who control the Titans through the helmets. Like if you go higher and look at the face and the helmet, you'll see that it's the one futuristic looking part of this model. Like he's got this beard. You can really see his face, and that's true for all Titans. Like you never see their face. You can see some of the chins. You can see lips, but most of the faces are obscured, and there is an inner reason for that. So the Argonauts control this Titan creature through the helmet, but the rest of the Titan, like you can see, he's got a shield, which we call the shipbreaker shield, and it's made from the hull of an ancient Greek ship, a trireme, and it's been bolted because it's been used in a fight more than once. And finally, if you go to the base, you'll see that there's a dead horse on the base. It's a really, like, I don't know if you can see it at this angle. Yeah, I think, yeah, you see it. It's on the left. So we put a lot of those tiny details into those models, and the slightly larger scale helps us do it even better than before. So this is the first model of the line. He's like the leader type of the first 4 Titans, and it really set the mood for the whole range of miniatures.
Okay, so who shall we take a look at next then?
You choose. Choose. You can go anywhere from here.
Athens Prime.
Sure. Yeah. Actually, the name, this is a production name, Athens Prime. It'll be changed for the final release, so you're seeing a production title. Yeah. So this is one of the 4 initial Titans. He's also got a loincloth made of sails. He's got a different type of helmet, but still it's the same sensibility of high technology. And you can also see he's sporting a rather large mace, or rather club. I don't know if you have the render from the other side.
No, just this one.
Oh, this is this is a shame, because the club is made from petrified great wood. This is wood that was found at the bottom of the ocean, and it's larger because it comes from a different area, a different period of history. Think prehistoric. And this particular Titan took part of a statue of a bull from Crete, and attached it to this tree. So if you look from the other side, you'd see that the club has a ram's head or bull's head, ram's head.
You can actually see it's in the bottom sort of part. You can see the eye and the snout of the bull's head, sort of upside down, looking at you.
Yeah. So that's I think that's a really nice touch on this one. And with those, because we wanted in this range of Titans, we wanted to show technological progression. So the first 4 Titans are like survivors of a shipwreck in the metaphorical sense. So they are really poorly clothed and poorly armed. As the story goes forward, the Titans will be better and better clothed and armed.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next one, and I'll just let you tell us about it, as opposed to me trying to do the name. Oh, not this one. There we go. There she is.
Oh yeah. So. This is Philocetra or Philocetra, if you like to pronounce it that way. And you can see this theme of using makeshift items as weapons and armor continue. She also has the loincloth made of sail. And by the way, the Titans are clothed only because of the Argonauts' sense of shame. Like, the Titans don't care if they are nude or not. It's just the Argonauts that feel uneasy with giant genitalia hanging over them. So they clothe the Titans. And again, you can see the different type of helm. You can see she's got that type of hair similar to the labyrinth nymph. She's got a dagger made of petrified wood in her left hand, and she's also got a ballista gun. And the ballista gun is a fun thing because we were looking at things that were larger than your typical armor or weapons in that times. And we found those ship ballistas, and we thought that it wouldn't be fun to just, for the Titan to just like pick up the ballista from the ship and just use it like a little gun. And that's what we did. So this is a pistol-like weapon made out of a siege weapon. And also you can see the pose. She's moving forward. You can see the muscles tightening on her legs. You can see the muscles on her arm. She's clearly worked out, because she's one of the Titans that each of the 4 initial Titans has a different body type. The last one we saw, 18th Prime, was a little bit starved. He had this weary but thin look, and she's really well built. You can also see I could go on and go on. You can see details like another, I think, that animal. There's one on the base. Some of the other miniatures have little people or a chariot or things like that. I think there's definitely another horse. I think she even might have stepped on it by accident.
Okay, and then the final Titan.
Yeah, so the final Titan is called Ulyssia, and which is a female form of Ulysses, which is a other name for Odysseus. So that's a nice little info there. And she is sporting a long mast spear. So this is a spear made out of a mast of a ship. You can even see like the lookout post still mounted on the lower part of the mast. And she because the Titans don't have personalities per se. We reference the pilots or the Argonauts that control those Titans. So Kierkegaard, the female. Oh, sorry, I'm making a mistake. This is actually a female Titan that's controlled by a male Argonaut. So this one is controlled, I think, by Odyssey Zero. It's because this is our fluff that we put out there with the miniatures. In the game that we're creating, because we are creating a game, it's called Eon Trust of Odyssey, and it's gonna come after Eschaton, sometime after Eschaton. You'll be able to create your own character. We also got some pre-generated characters, and Odyssey Zero is one of them. You can also, this is, I think I haven't mentioned this before, the Titans also have those small, like if you focus on one of the legs, you'll see like an indentation, like something is sticking out of the leg. She also got one on her belly. So this is another element of this another sci-fi element we put in there, because we really don't know where the Titans came from, but it is clearly a technological part that is that is sticking out her leg. It looks like a socket, so maybe something attaches to it or not. It's for you to find out.
Ooh, intriguing. Okay then. Wow. Oh, so much to take in, and so much amazing miniatures to take a look at. So thank you very much, Marcin, for sharing this all with us.
Thank you. I've got, if I can.
Sure.
I've sent you something right now.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. This is going to get technical. Okay. Hang on 1 second.
This is like straight from the graphic, from the graphic artist. This is one of the new sculpts we'll also have in the campaign. And this is like, we haven't even hinted at this before, so you'll see a different kind of miniature coming from us.
Oh my god. Oh my. Okay, so guys, this is it. You're getting this live exclusive.
Exactly.
There is, yeah. I can't fit it all on screen. Okay, here we go. Let's passing you over. Wow.
Yeah. So the Titans need to fight something, right? So this is one of the creatures that the Titans fight. It's one of the primordial creatures that emerged after the Eschaton happened. So this miniature, as you see, is quite quite larger than the Titan, which in itself is about 40 millimeters to the top of the helmet. So as you might see, this is something new for us, this creature. And we're gonna have more of this kind of miniatures too in this upcoming campaign. This one is called the Icarian Harpy, and it's basically a creature that has rapid evolution abilities, which means that it becomes really quickly adapts to the environment and adapts to the style of fighting of its enemies and to the weapons they are using. So, for example, if the Titans that are attacking the creature are attacking with long-range weapons, it will develop a harder skin that will allow it to withstand the arrows. Or, like in this case, one of its legs is becoming tentacle-like. So I love this sculpt. I love the concept. As you see, it's on a 50 millimeter base compared to the 30 millimeter bases of the Titans. It's all fully scenic. You can see the columns. There's a lot of other detail that you can see right now, but you'll see when you get the full model. And yeah, I think it's a lovely concept of taking a few of like very disparate influences. The harpy being one, so there's the feathers, but also the slightly Lovecraftian theme of the tentacles. And there's a lot of really bizarre or strange or terrifying stuff in the details. Like if you look at the chest, the chest isn't normal looking. There's something going on there. There's something going on the elbows, and so on and so on. Do you have any questions?
Where can I get one? Wow, this is just, yeah, look at the detail on that.
Yeah, so yeah. This is, as I said, this miniature is 60 millimeters from tentacle to the head, to the eyes. This is not the largest model we're gonna have, like not even close. So you'll I think you'll be looking forward to those models because well, like when I look at the models we've designed for the nymphs, I'm really happy. But these new designs like give me this gleeful feeling of being a kid again. So yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of new sculpts. We're gonna have the nymphs, Encore edition, and some other surprises too.
It basically, you've got a bits box of animal parts and you're just stitching them together, aren't you, really? Let's be honest.
No, this is, as I said, this is a creature that evolves rapidly on the battlefield. Like it can become something else if the situation arises that needs to be something else, let's say. So it's actually like in the mythology of the monsters of the universe, it's like a middle tier. Like it's really it's a really formidable foe for the Titans. It's still not the top of the food chain, but it's up there.
Wow. That's wow, and thank you very much for sharing that exclusively on the channel.
Thank you guys for listening to me. I hope my accent. I'm really self-conscious about my accent, so I hope you understood me most of the time. And again, thank you for your time.
No, it's been really insightful. It's been a joy to understand the creative process that goes on behind the miniatures, and just how much detail and that you go into. But you know, I feel that there is just one thing remaining, because you see, the guys, you know, as much as the campaign is going to start in September time,
yeah,
they really want miniatures now. Because actually, if September's the end of the world, we've got to give them time to paint something up, haven't we?
Probably, yeah.
Do you think it would be okay if we gave them some miniatures?
Oh, I think it's only natural that we do.
So then, guys, Into the Unknown has been incredibly generous and provided us, and of course, this was a limited edition run of miniatures on the initial Kickstarter. So there are none available at this moment in time. Am I right in saying that?
Exactly right. Each one has a hand numbered and signed certificate. We won't be doing that again. So
okay,
yeah, so one of a kind.
We have a selection of nymphs here that I think you guys are going to be interested in. I will put them in the center so that you can see. So we do have the Solitude nymph.
We actually, if I can just
Oh,
interject,
go on.
we hand stamped those boxes.
I'm gonna open this up because actually that's the one thing. I'm conscious of the time, and of course you've been up all day, but I do want to show the contents off here just quickly. So as you've described before, we get a lovely art print of the concept artwork, inspiration for your painting. There is the text to describe the actual nymph. And then, as you were saying there, so we know with certainty that this is 178 out of 230. And that's your signature there, so we can go.
Mine's on the right. One on the left is Mateusz, the art director. I'm on the one on the right. My signature isn't as large, but
Okay, so let me see if I can carefully take this out. Because she's actually got, I've got a trap slightly behind. I want to be so careful. Because the branches are on the sprue there. But you can see her there in all of her loveliness. Exclamation booty. So we got the Solitude Nymph. We have then got wow, is there a gangster movie happening on your side?
Listen, actually there is someone burning rubber on the so this is not standard procedure here. Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the Curiosity Nymph. It's number 75 out of the group.
Yeah, we randomized those, so I don't know which one you got, so
there we go.
maybe we got one of the first ones. So
no, I checked. There's no way I'm giving away number one. Okay. Oh, whoops. And then, wow.
You know what? Maybe you can mute me for a while.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then we have the Hope Nymph. And she is number 24. Okay, and as we saw in the concept, so she's a big nymph with all of the smoke, all of the faces, the child at her breast, big hair, really nice. So for regulars and for newcomers, basically what you need to do is type in !giveaway, and that will give you the terms and conditions on a competition. The most important point of this, just so that there is no misunderstanding, is that the shipping costs are paid by the winner. Unfortunately, I can't be shipping these out all over the world, right? This is something that we as the community all agreed upon. It's the best way to allow competitions to be worldwide. So to actually enter the competition, it is !nymphs. That will give you a link. That link will take you then to a website, and you can enter the competition. And once we get everybody's entries in, it will close on Wednesday evening next week. And then I will announce the winners on Thursday. So there you go. That will be the competition page that the link will take you through to. And hopefully it is nice and self-explanatory. You just have to, there's various ways to enter. typically following on the channel, following social media networks. It's the usual sort of thing. More entries you put in, more chance you have of winning, and then it will be randomly selected for next Thursday. I think it only leaves us to just thank Marcin for his time. So please show him some exclamation hype, some exclamation clap.
It was really nice talking to you. I really like to talk about the stuff that we make. I'm really passionate about it, so thank you for listening. You can get more of this type of stuff, miniatures and lore, on our pages. So.
Awesome, excellent. Okay, Marcin, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And
bye.
Take care, and we'll see you soon.
You too. See ya. Bye bye.
Bye now. I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. And yes, that has been a long night full of amazing stuff. All right then, folks, I think that's about it. So thank you very much, as always. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you on Monday, or if not, in the Discord server before then. Thank you once again, and good night.